am wondering, why are you here?
Hey everybody, this is Sean and I am the Hi-Fi Jedi. I want to thank you all for coming today to the Jedi Temple. Very exciting day today. This is our first episode of what I will call this segment, Fix It, I Will. It's going to be a pretty cool thing I'm going to start doing. I'm going to be putting equipment on my bench and doing some repair work, kind of showing you guys some of the things that I'm doing, some of the tools that I'm doing it with, and hopefully it'll be informative and entertaining along the way. Very excited today though. I'm going to be working on this Nakamichi RX-202 tape deck that I actually bought for myself. I got a tip from somebody that a gal down in Springfield, Missouri had one. That's about 3 hours south of Kansas City where I live. And she had it for sale and I got a hold of her and she had somebody that was going to come pick it up and he didn't show up. So the next day I got a hold of her and she actually had somebody else that was in line ahead of me that was local. And so I offered her over her asking price and she happily accepted that and put me in line ahead of the other guy. Who says money can't buy you happiness? So anyway, I made a 6-hour round trip to pick up this machine, and I'm going to show it to you, show all the cool stuff that came with it, and just what a neat unit it really is. I'm excited to get this thing fixed and make it become a full-time part of Darth Vader. Which you will find out who that is soon enough when I get my retro room finished up. It's almost complete. I've been working hard on it so I can share it with you guys and start doing some other segments. But anyway, for now, let's get to looking at this tape deck and I'll show you what we got going on. So this is it. This is the Nakamichi RX-202 unidirectional auto reverse cassette deck. This is a 2-head deck. It was made by Nakamichi Corporation, which makes pretty much the best tape decks there are. In fact, the illustrious Nakamichi Dragon, which is an editing deck that everybody's gaga over. People are paying upwards of $8,000 to $10,000 for that thing. I did not pay that much for this one. I got a really great deal on this. I actually picked up this thing for a couple $100. Well worth the money and the 6-hour drive that I had to pick it up. So let me explain to you a little bit about why I wanted this particular unit. So it's unidirectional, which means that the tape heads are fixed up in here. They don't move. So let me kind of demonstrate. So it's a front load unit and you take and put your tape in, close it up. So then when you hit play, the thing spins and the tape goes the same direction till it's time to auto reverse. Well, normally the heads will come down, they will rotate and go back up. The tape stays the same and never moves. But there's also the possibility of the tracking of the tape heads to move. So by keeping the heads fixed in here, the way that Nakamichi designed this, which is actually quite brilliant, and it's what makes this deck so cool. So when you play and it auto reverses, it just flips the tape. Isn't that sweet? I love that about this deck. And then it just keeps on playing. So, you know, that helps with a lot of things. Keeps the heads in line. They're always where they need to be. Plus they're not, you know, building up static, flipping around, adding to the magnetization of the heads that have to be demagnetized more frequently, that kind of stuff. Also, I wanted to share with you, so this thing came with the original sales brochure from when it was brand new. So that's what they would have picked up in the showroom before they bought the unit. So they got that, was with it. The original owner's manual tells you all about that. You know what a user manual is. This is my good old standby tape test right here. Billy Thorpe, Children of the Sun. This thing also came with the original bill of sale, which this is always cool, man. Anytime you got history that goes along with a piece that you buy, it just gives you that much more confidence that if somebody put the time in to save this stuff, then more than likely they took care of the unit. You know what I mean? This is paper, and this is from 1984. They actually purchased this at a place called the Stereo Buff in Springfield, Missouri on April the 26th, 1984, at a whopping $650, this tape deck was. So this was definitely a top-of-the-line unit back in the day. It's still a great unit. I am really thrilled to have this thing. The only thing it really needs, it's in pristine shape, is it needs the new rubbers, which with any cassette deck of this age, the belts and stuff like that are going to be trash. You always want to fix it, have somebody fix it, like the Hi-Fi Jedi maybe. So anyway, it's got a couple belts and the idler roller tire right here. So we're going to get into putting that in, get this thing freshened up, and get it hooked up on my system so I can enjoy it. So let's get cracking. The first thing that I want to do, because this thing is in super shape and I do not want anything happen to this as I'm working on the bench, is I want to go ahead and remove the plexiglass shield cover for the front of the drawer. So we're going to open that up. This thing actually just got a couple of clips right in here, and to remove this baby you just slide it forwards, kind of tilt it up and pull it out and get it out of the way. Put it someplace safe because it's very delicate tabs in here and we don't want to get all that stuff messed up. So that's the very first thing you really want to do. Then we're going to go ahead and close it back down for now. We're going to power it down, and I'm going to take the case off of it so we can take a look inside. Okay, so I got the case lid cracked off of there. There's just 2 screws on each side that came out. So this is it. This is your first look, my first look. This thing looks to be in just impeccable shape, man. I mean, all of the boards are completely clean. There's not a lot of dust in here. The way the mechanism was working, it was like, man, this thing has just been so well taken care of, and it was stored properly. So this is the UDAR unit right here that we're going to be working on today. So this will have, this is the little positioning servo. All this does basically is tell the unit where the drawer is so that it knows exactly how to run the motor, to flip the thing in and out, that kind of thing. So we're gonna have to kind of tear into this stuff a little bit. This is the Capstan roller, got the belt on it. I don't know, that belt doesn't really look too bad. We might end up just having to put a drive tire in this thing, but we're going to check it out and see. So I'll show you where we go from here. Okay, so after a little bit of investigation, I kind of want to show you what this thing's doing. So if I hit the play button, you can see the heads go down, the Capstan roller starts going, but then it stops. I'll try it again. Plays for a little while, and then it stops. Like I said, so you hit play, heads come down, you can see them come down. It's not really doing a whole lot. And it would stop and stop and stop. And you can see this is kind of slipping a little bit. So like if I hold that, it goes back up. Do it again. It's kind of trying to play, but then if I barely touch it, it stops and everything stops. So what we got going on here is the little rubber tire driver that drives these 2 spindles right here, these take-up reels. So that's pretty much, I'm sure, what is wrong with it. We're going to go ahead and replace all the rubber in this thing since it's the age that it is, and I doubt this thing has ever been serviced. So we're going to check out a few things, and we're going to go ahead and start pulling this baby apart. Okay, so the first thing I'm going to do is go ahead and get the drawer open here, and then we're going to go ahead and depower this thing, turn it off, make sure we didn't have any juice. So this little dude, I'm going to go ahead and take it off first. There's a couple of screws right here that we need to get, and go ahead and pull these little bad boys out. Come on. Okay, those are loose. There we go. This one's not wanting to stick for some reason. Okay, so up this goes and off this comes. Now, I'm just going to go ahead and stick the screws back in here and set this off to the side. Okay. Now, I know that there is a couple of screws on the inside that we need to take out. There's some here because this plate comes out completely, and this rubber tire roller is right behind here. So let me take a look at this real quick and figure out the best way to crack into this. I'm probably going to pull out the service manual and refresh what I already looked at before. Then next we've got two screws. There's one right here and one right there that need to come out. So I'm going to pull those out and I'll show you what's next. Okay. I'm just going to come in here with a screwdriver. This one loose and pull it out. Come over here on the other side and get this one. Let's see. There we go. Okay, got that one. Okay, so that step is done. So the next step, I believe I'm going to go ahead and take the screws out of the top and out of the bottom down here and pull this faceplate off next. That's going to give us room because there's a couple little grab rails that are on some springs. There's two brackets inside of here that hold the tops of those. As that tape deck goes in, those little things that goes in, and then those clip in, and those help push the tape and hold it in where it belongs. So to get to these, I think I'm just going to go ahead and pull this out of the way. I believe I'm going to go ahead and take the screws out of the top and out of the bottom down here and pull this faceplate off next. That's going to give us room because there's a couple little grab rails that are on some springs. There's two brackets inside of here that hold the tops of those. As that tape deck goes in, those little things that goes in, and then those clip in, and those help push the tape and hold it in where it belongs. So to get to these, I think I'm just going to go ahead and pull this out of the way. All right, so I'm going to pull these out. Crack them loose a little bit. And be mindful that this one has a ground wire attached to it right there. So we got to make sure and put that back when we do that up. There we go. Oh, nice if I could see. There we go. Okay. Speaking of tools that I use, I got this little dude off of Amazon for about, I don't know, 20 bucks. Just a little USB rechargeable screwdriver, micro. It's got its own LED light. Definitely worth the money when you're tearing this stuff apart. And then we're going to go ahead and get these three right here. Okay, and that's it. Now we should be able to pull the faceplate off. Okay, so all those screws are out now, so I'm just gonna slide this faceplate off easily. And just remember, guys, when you're working on this stuff, if the stuff just doesn't come apart real easy, don't force it. I mean, it should just fall right apart, and if it doesn't, then you haven't done enough investigating or you haven't got enough screws out or whatever. But don't go just pulling and yanking and breaking on stuff, man. It's just gonna end up hurting you in the long run. Trust me, I've made those mistakes before, and it really hurts. So anyway, I got the faceplate off, so we'll be able to clean that really good before we go ahead and put it back on. As you can see from this side over here, there's the little spring. There's that little tang I was telling you about that holds it in there. There's the bracket end with the little tit that comes up through it. So this rod goes all the way down and it goes in another little hole right there so that that thing, when it opens and closes, see how it springs open, and then when you push it back, it springs closed and holds the tape in up on the top. So we need to go ahead and do the same thing on this other side, and then we'll go from there. Right in here, all around there. So that loops around and goes back through there and then holds the front of that rod on. So you got to take these two screws out, and then we can pull this bracket up and lift it out, and then we'll be able to disconnect the spring and pull those rods out from the front. So to get these out, I'm just using a 1/4 inch drive ratchet with a 4mm socket and a fine tip Phillips bit out of my little power driver. And I just want to do that because I want to be able to push in here with my thumb and get some really, really good pressure. There we go. Crack these loose. I do not want to be stripping these. There we go. Got them turning. Okay. So then I'll come back in here with a regular screwdriver and get these pulled out and take this front out, and then we'll go to the next step. So the trick to getting these brackets out, it's kind of a little pain. So, you know, those are the screws that we just took out from back in here. Okay, so it sits in there like that. The little tit goes up through here. The thing goes like that. Do you like that? Like that. So anyway, so to get these out with this tab the way that it is like this, so inside of there, you just let this thing roll back, and then you just twist it and pull it out from the inside from back here. So just roll it back and twist it out. That's it. Pop the tray out, and then I'm going to use my trusty Mac Tools seal pick that I've had ever since I was a hydraulic repair machinist back for HR&E in Blue Springs years ago. Love these seal picks. I want to get this plate out of here without scratching the front. So I think I can just come up here, and this will keep me out of the head. So I can just kind of grab behind that. See how I'm pulling that out? And then I can come right down here and kind of pull it. Now what you want to do with this is you want to keep this back end over here on the left back, and then you want to pull this side, because you got to kind of wedge this thing out of here. There we go. See, just like that, and then it'll just slide out. And that way it isn't all screwed up. And then there we go. So there's our culprit right there. So this little rubber wheel that goes back and forth that drives these take-up reels right here is gone. And yeah, it ain't doing nothing but to drive those because the rubber's completely ate up. So I'll show you how to change that here in just a second. Man, so you want to talk about a pain in the butt. I wanted to be really delicate with it because I didn't want to mess it up. I mean, it's just a tiny, tiny little plastic washer that is on the outside of this thing. It holds it on. So basically what I had to do is I had to take some of my super fine needle point tweezers and bend the back one in. Okay, let me try to do this a little better. So I'd take this back one and bend it in like this so that I could get back behind there and grab a hold of that thing, and then you got to push down and pull hard till that baby just comes out in your tweezers, and then this thing just slips right off the spindle. So then we just got to take this, I got to dig this old rubber out of here, clean this really good, stretch the new rubber over the top of it, and it'll be ready to put back in. So, okay, so I'm going to take one of my pointy L seal picks and put this down on the table so I can put some pressure on it and just try to dig in behind that and get in behind that rubber some way, somehow.
Did you hear that?
Without breaking that wheel. Okay, so yeah, I just about had it. Here we go. Oh, okay, see, this is just flipping disintegrating, you know. It's, yeah, just almost like goo. Okay, there we go. There we go, and we got it. So there is a little bit of difference there. This one's super hard. This one's nice and spongy. And there's definitely a difference in the diameter on it. And just enough to make a difference. So we'll stretch this back on here. And this baby will be ready to put back on. Helps if you got some fingernails. But you just want to make sure you get it down in that groove good. And you can see if it's not, because it wants to roll back towards the back. So, there we go. Oh, shit. So when you get this thing in here, you kind of want to just take your fingers and hold it, pinch it, wiggle it back and forth, and it'll roll itself down inside of there till finally, voila, you got it. Okay, so once you got that ready, just kind of want to take this thing, put it between your fingers, and then you can see where it's supposed to go back here on this spindle, and just shove her back on there. Now see, that thing's good and tight, so there you go. I had to actually push it over the drive roller this time because it was so tight. So yeah, now I just got to put that little booger washer back on. Wow, so that was nerve-wracking to say the least. That little thing is so tiny, and it's like clear plastic. And boy, it'd just be so easy just to drop that thing and sneeze and wham, then you're on a scavenger hunt throughout the body of this thing to try to find it. So anyway, I had to end up going into my watch repair kit to get these more rigid pointy tip tweezers so that I could get that thing in there, and I had to hold the bottom part here with my fingernail and then just kind of stretch that thing over there. But man, it was tedious and took a lot of time to do. But that's what you definitely want to do, man, because if you lose or break that little thing, that wheel is not going to stay on there no matter what you do, and then you're going to be screwed. So really, guys, take your time, breathe, slow down, and do it right. Okay, so let's power this bad boy back on and drop the old Billy Thorpe in there. I love that tape. I've got that on CD and on cassette and on vinyl. If you got a really good system, man, the way they throw the sound around is just amazing. Okay, so let's close it up and let's hit play. So far, so good. Ah, looky there. We got our level meters going, counters working. This is a real-time counter too. This isn't a revolutions counter. This is actual time in seconds. So really, really nice. But looks like that took care of the problem. It's rolling, and we're gonna test it out a little bit more, see if it rewinds. Yeah, rewinds just fine. Fast forward. So that was it, and that's probably the main problem on just about any of these, is that little roller rubber just gets dried out and worn down and shrinks and just doesn't put enough pressure to drive those supply and take up hubs. So anyway, I'm going to kind of go ahead and look at changing the capstan belt next. Okay, so now we're going to change out this capstan belt. I still got to put all the rest of that together, but I'm not going to do that until the very end. I like to put things back together in reverse order, and we're still digging into this thing, so I don't want to put anything back together that I don't have to at this particular moment. But anyway, so from what it looks like, this particular bracket right here, there's a screw here, there's a screw there. This is all really tight, and if I have to cut these wire ties, I will cut these wire ties. But I think if I take this screw out and take this screw out, I might be able to get this to pull back enough and out of the way to where I can actually change that belt out pretty easily, because otherwise it's just locked in there. So let's give that a whirl, shall we? On these little tiny little screws, I always try to just screw them out into my fingers and let them fall into my fingers. That way I got a hold on them and they're not going anywhere. Okay, got that one out. Yeah, that's pretty loose, so I think that's probably going to work. Take this bad boy here out. Trying not to hit this board in the back here, this driver board. With my screwdriver. Just take your time. You know, if you don't enjoy this stuff, you don't have any business doing it. I mean, it's tedious work sometimes, and you have to be very meticulous about what you do. So take your time and have fun with it. Learn and enjoy. Okay, so I got those off, so let's see maybe what we got going on here. Okay. Okay, now that definitely is loose right there, but I think we got another plate. There's another, so I think this whole motor assembly probably comes off is what the deal is with that. So there's another screw down here underneath this motor. Let me figure out how to get to that. And just to show you the difference, so there's the new belt. And so I'm going to kind of stretch this out with my fingers a little bit and get it tight. Now here's the old one. Now the new one, really tight, grabbing onto my fingers. This old one, all kinds of slack, and it's super slick. I can just move it all day long. So it definitely needed a new capstan belt as well. Well, I'll tell you what, guys, I'm gonna have to do this with my eyes, so I'm gonna put this thing back on and button this back up, and you figure out what's going on with it. We're just gonna take it down, we're gonna loop it around that pulley, and then we'll pull it up through this little gap and wrap it back around this bad boy. In fact, I'm gonna take some alcohol and clean that up. See all this nasty crap on here? So we're gonna clean this capstan drum up really, really good before we do that anyway. So let me get that cleaned up and get that belt back on, and I'll get back with you. But I think you got it figured out on this part of it. Okay, so that phase of the job is all done. So it took me like mega Q-tips, and man, that thing was filthy. And while I had the old alcohol and the Q-tips out, I went ahead and cleaned the heads too. So I went ahead and buttoned all this up, but I wanted to tell you exactly how I did this. So once I got the capstan drum roller all cleaned up, so I just took the belt and fished it down through there, and took my little screwdriver and pushed it down in there and pushed the belt over the end, pulled it up tight, okay? Then I just fed it underneath this strand of wires here, fed it down through and pulled it up here. This was still open, so I was able to just pull that around the back of that, then stretch it over, roll it a couple times, and it just got set. So it's perfect. Put the 2 screws that we took out back in. So that phase of it is all done, and we got the heads clean. So all we got left now is to get down in here to the mechanism and change out this belt that comes off of this motor. And that'll be it. That'll be the end of the belt install video, and my new baby will be all ready to jam. I cannot wait. Okay, for this last part, guys, we have to take this little part of the mechanism off. You got 4 screws here. Yeah, we'll start with this hard one first. Let me get my big old hands out of the way here. All right, give that a little bit of pressure. If they don't want to turn, push on them a little bit harder and make sure that you can get them, because if you strip these out, you're going to be in a world of crapola. Okay, so we got that one. And so far this thing has just been super clean. There we go. I'm going to kind of give them a little bit of pressure. These screws are really tight on this thing. And I did go ahead and eject the tray out, so it moved it all the way out, and gave us a little bit more room under here. And that also too, we can turn that mechanism if we need to. Okay, there's that one, and we got one more. This last one right here. I already have my hands all in the way, but you see where we're going with this. Okay, so those are out now. So let's peer into this thing and see what the deal is with it. We gotta be careful with these wires because we do not want to mess that up. Okay, so we got that. Okay, so here is that belt right here. So it goes all around this motor pulley, and it goes around this mechanism pulley. And as you can see down in here, there's all kind of grease and stuff that I think I'm gonna go ahead and clean that off and put some fresh oil and stuff down in there, and spend a little bit of time working on that, because that really needs to be good and clean so that that mechanism will work for me for a long time to come. So I'm gonna take some time and get all that stuff cleaned up and lubed up, and then we'll come back and put the belt on. Wow, so that was quite a booger. So it ended up being the magic tool for this job was the old hemostats. Most of you record fans know exactly where you got these from. So anyway, the trick is basically this. So this pulley hooks to this motor. So this all pulls out of the way, and what you got to make sure is when the carriage is completely closed, I went ahead and see down here with a little Sharpie and made a mark right here, even with this spindle. Now I know there's, you know, gears that are supposed to have marks on them and stuff, but I wanted to make sure, so I marked it myself, because you even get this thing off a couple of teeth, and this potentiometer is telling this thing it's in the wrong position and it won't function properly. It won't close or open or whatever. So anyway, get that thing around there, reach in there with your hemostats, clamp down on it, and then pull. The belt's stretchy and it's new, you're not going to break it, so pull it over here, about here, and hold it, and then you can go ahead and position this back down in there and kind of pull up on this and let go of it, and you'll feel it snap on this. And then you go ahead and set this down in there, and then you lift up on this side over here, you lift it up, and then you go ahead and dial in your little dot, make sure you got it right, push it all back down, tighten all the screws in. Now put them in first and run them all down before you get them tight, because it'll be a little pain in the butt for one of them if you don't do it. So anyway, that is the last leg of the journey on this, other than I just need to put this thing back together in reverse order. I'm going to go ahead right now and turn it on, and we're going to see that it opens, closes. We're going to go ahead and reverse it. So it is working exactly the way it should. And as you'll notice, the way this gear works is, so when you eject it, it turns from here to here and back. But when you reverse it, it goes from here all the way around to here, 180 degrees, and back. So that's the difference in those two. Just thought I'd give you that little bit of insight. So I'm going to go ahead and put this thing back together, and I'll give you my final thoughts, and we'll put some headphones on this thing and we'll test it out and see what it sounds like. Okay, through the magic of television, we have got this baby all put back together. I took my time doing it. The little tape holder rods and brackets were a little bit of a pain, but if you just take your time, make sure you got plenty of light and you can see everything really good, it all goes back together pretty well. Got everything cleaned up, got the faceplate cleaned up, got all the buttons and everything taken care of. I went ahead and cleaned all of the sliders and stuff with some deoxit fader and some really good stuff for those like potentiometers and sliders and stuff. I really like it. And so everything's cleaned up. This thing's fully serviced. I highly doubt that it's going to need any components or anything. I'm going to play it for a while, and if it breaks down or doesn't sound very well, then we'll get back into it, and we'll probably do a full recap and change out any known bads. But for the time being, let's, I got the headphones plugged in. I'm gonna go ahead and power this baby on. And look at that, just nice and smooth. Everything works like it should. Pop a tape in there, good old Billy, and we're gonna jam. I would play this for you, but I would get a strike on the old YouTube. But trust me when I tell you, it sounds pretty darn good. So anyway, playing good. Got a good fast forward on it. Stop. Good rewind. Everything looks good. Play again. Sounds good. All the meters are working. I'm ready to make this a permanent addition to my system. So I like it. Well, that wasn't too bad. Probably took me all told with the taping and checking out the schematics and figuring out exactly what I was doing so I didn't damage my unit. I'm probably into this thing for about 3 hours total time. I cannot wait to get this thing hooked up and see what it's like. I hope that this has given you some insights on how to do this if you have one of these units, and I know there's a lot of them out there. I see a lot of them. You know, I haven't personally worked on them myself, but I don't have any problem in servicing them for anybody at this point. It's not too bad of a deal, and if you feel like you're up to it, you can watch this video over and over and you should be able to get it figured out pretty easily. I've gone through all the steps. This should be the most complete video that you've seen on this subject, and I hope that you really enjoyed it. And if you don't feel like doing it yourself, go ahead and ship it here to the Jedi Temple, and I'll be glad to take care of it for you. So anyway, I want to thank you guys so much. This was a lot of fun. This very first episode of Fix It I Will, here with Sean Terry. I am the Hi-Fi Jedi, and until next time, cue it, drop it, and crank it. Peace out.
Help you again? Yes. You must unlearn what you have learned.